start streaming. Take it away, Nathan.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Club Baroness. We're going to be covering the Phantom Dust tournament, the outcomes of round 2, which was just completed tonight. It was an awesome round. I'm very excited to say that portions, at least a portion, of all 7 matchups were recorded and captured and are currently in the tournament result thread. So you can go there and you can see the links that we've got set up. Some of the series were captured in their entirety. Others were captured just 1 or 2 games due to issues with the Xbox DVR function. But oh, that was awesome. I started without introducing us. This is Nathan Zero, and I'm here with Bragan.
Hello.
And Gagnoon.
Hey there.
We're hopping. So what we're going to do is just talk about the results. The results of the 7 matches that were played in the second round. And we are going to start out, unless you guys have anything else you'd like to add here before we get right into the analysis.
Just the piece that I'm going to actually be... You see at the moment that I'm capturing my computer display. I think it might be more helpful to look at our graphs as we're talking about them. And I might even bring up specific games because I can link right to them. So you're going to have an on-the-fly my screen of how I'm thinking and looking at these games. Hopefully that'll help you follow along.
Great. Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so I think we're going to start out talking about the... Oh, look, my child has emerged. Hello, Theo. Are we going to sit with Daddy and listen to him podcast about Phantom Dust?
That sounds excellent.
Looks like he is going to. The first game we're going to talk about is Sandal Ink and Filthy Knigget versus Mimic and Mesrath. This was a starter series. It was one of the earlier ones played in the round. It was won by Mimic and Mesrath 3-1. The bans were on Palace and Refinery, which is the second time that the Palace level has been banned by Sandal. I'm not sure whether they're dodging that level or not. They took Highway in their first round match and then got swept out for the remainder of the series. This is obviously one of the ones that got recorded. As I see it, he got just about the whole thing of Panorama and nothing else, right?
Yeah,
So
I got about 3/4 of Panorama.
Yeah, I'm running it right now for him.
Yeah, and it is a really up-tempo, feisty round. I mean, that really you can see. You want to talk about some high pace, and the fact is, Panorama is always kind of like that. But this in particular looks like a ferocious round, and I don't see any sign of ricochet laser on either side, right?
That is the
I don't think
elephant in the room,
of the
so
game.
to speak.
Well, it's honorable. I think it's an honorable choice on their parts.
Yeah, it's not the only Panorama match to go without Ricochet, surprisingly.
It's also a counter meta choice, so people realize there's going to be Ricochet, which means there'll be answers to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, if I remember from what I was watching, they were all using a lot of melee. So a lot of reincarnation.
Yeah, which is always, I think, going to be sort of the second thing, right? Mm-hmm. If you're not going with the ricochet laser, which is kind of I don't want to call it degenerate. It's maybe not quite that bad, but it is definitely a somewhat dysfunctional and overwhelming strategy. This is where you drop optimization and just nonstop use ricochet laser in the enclosed level. You're generally going to be on either some combination of faith and swords, or, well, as we were discussing, last week, you're just going to use close range kind of hyper aggressive skills. The Sandal himself did a recap on Highway, just talking about how the game had gone. The one that they won, but they took them down. They used Bloody Ritual. I should say Mimic used Bloody Ritual to get Filthy blanked, but they were able somehow to pull that out for a win in spite of that. So I think that's about all the detail we have on that matchup, right?
Yeah, they really didn't give us a whole lot else to go on. Way I kind of envision it is Mimic and Mesrath are pretty high tempo team, more high tempo than I think Filthy and Sandal normally are. They tend to be more of the setup, able to draw out long games, have the bigger combos, but Mimic and Mazrath, a lot of the blazing and stuff like that. So it was probably went down similar to that.
Yeah.
My few points I had on it. You see in the video, you've already seen, there's some technical issues with communication, and maybe there's otherwise communication issues as well. And maybe that's something we have to overcome in the future. But
speaking of communication, that does remind me something, because I did talk to Sandal about the series afterwards. On City, they were going to run an abnormal gravity combo. They were thinking that since one or both of Mimic and Mazrath play Freya, that it would be a little bit better against them since they have the jump stutter as well.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that Sandal's always thinking about, like little things just about like what characters people were playing. Abnormal gravity being better against a female jumper than against a male jumper. And so they were going to run it, and I guess Filthy just straight up didn't pick the right arsenal. And so they went in, and City was basically just a throwaway.
feels bad.
Well, look, we've all been there. I mean,
Filthy
sometimes
did,
it comes down to the labeling on the decks. I've done that. The Wolf and I are currently running a pair of decks that are like a pair of sets of decks that have similar names. Like we use similar code words for them, and we've gotten our wires crossed in both directions on that friggin' thing.
Oh no.
So I mean, it's definitely a thing that can happen. It hasn't, fortunately, it hasn't happened to us yet in tournaments, but it certainly could, because like I say, you know, it's the kind of thing that you're just going to run into sometimes.
Yeah. Some last thoughts on these guys. Obviously, Mimic and Mazrath, some really good aggression, like coordinated aggression. And on the other side, we only get a little bit of video, but I saw Sandal with some really impressive jumping skills. We've talked about this before, maybe. He is one of the better technical jumpers for dodging abilities. And I think that could come to bear later on.
Outside of Doomsday, I'd say he's the best,
also.
Honestly. Like he's fantastic at it, and he makes all those videos about how to dodge stuff. Like I can't dodge a blaster at max range. He can,
Right.
And he can do it as a male jumper, not just as a female too. And so I think they have that going for them. I feel like they were kind of tilted a little on tilt, and if they are able to get things back together, I think they're still a force to be reckoned with. Like I don't think any team in the tournament who faces them should be taking them lightly.
Yeah,
especially
and no
not
one's
with Sandal's
mathematically
mind.
eliminated yet. Every single team. I mean, you know, the Sandal and Knigget need to go on a pretty hard run here for these next two series, but there is absolutely no one eliminated yet. You know, it is still entirely possible to make. As we can see, we've got 6 different teams that are 1-1, so battling their way back to 2-2 over the course of the remainder of the tournament could certainly put them into striking distance of 8th place.
Yeah. So who's next?
So the next one is Esper Evolution, Esper 51, I should say, in Evolution, which I guess is just IV Evolution VI.
Yeah. Evolution, we'll call them.
Yeah, we'll just call them Evolution versus I Will Rider and
Evolution.
Mr. Math 101. So they played Math and Rider. That was a similar kind of outcome, actually, in that it was it opened with a draw and then it went on with a sweep. So rather than winning the first round, they drew the first round. I should say Esper and Evolution lost the match. So they lost it 0-3-1. They had a draw on Palace. Highway was a ban. And then they lost, you know, one after another, Panorama City Refinery.
We don't see Palace,
as with the
but
list,
it's probably trees, you know.
One would think, yeah.
Yeah, when we're watching Panorama here, I'm watching it right now. Looks like Evolution went to go with the good old Ricochet lasers, the Faith version that's really popular right now. Just looks like he didn't hit the aura. They hung a Chaos and basically, just hunted him down with flame swords. Will Rider was using Dance of Death too, I believe.
Yeah, I've seen that combo before, actually, and kind of expected it to come up somewhere.
Yeah, the Chaos Dance of Death. They did hit, it's worth mentioning that they hit a Disintegrate combo on both Math and Will that match.
I think they
They
hit
still
everyone.
managed to...
I think it's a 4-person. I'm going
No.
to actually switch to it.
No, they didn't. Esper and Evolution did not get hit by it.
There's two.
They hit the combo, and they were in a really good spot for winning it after that, but they
were
managed
two
to
on City.
get back enough aura, and then they managed to, clutch it out at the end there.
Oh, maybe I'm watching the wrong one. I thought.
Oh, I remember. if you go towards the end, I think it's Evolution picks up a quantum amp and uses a quantum amp, which puts Will Ryder back at 5, where he can use Dance of Death.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And then I think he picks up his last capsule
he brought it
too.
against us in the first round, and I saw it in 3 different games in our 4-game series. So he was bringing it consistently. It's interesting. I mean, it's a high risk, high reward strategy. I think that, the thing of it is with Dance of Death, it's a great skill. I love it. I have a deck built for it, and I've used it in competition. But I think that most of the time when you watch a game between any 2 teams, what you see is a fairly even match most of the time until it gets down to the corpse recovery or the finishing sequence, right? Which a lot of times comes out of the same thing. And I'm
watching it right now, and Math pops out Esper. And then the quantum amp brought Will Ryder back into viability.
I will note, I just showed, because I was looking for it, they did get a 4-person disintegrate.
Oh, God.
Yeah, everyone got hit by
I didn't see that.
With a hung memory lapse. It's pretty nasty.
Is that on City?
Yeah, it was like 3 minutes in.
Okay, yeah, I'm talking about the Panorama match. But yes, they also hit the disintegrate on City.
Oh, did they hit him? No, I missed that one. Okay, 3 disintegrates in 2 games. These guys are hitting it real hard.
That's hideous.
Yeah.
So props to them. They lost the round, but they are getting their nasty stuff working really well. A little more clock.
Yeah, Matt turned it around. The next one working away at the list is Dwayne and Jay against Monkey and Silver Saint. So this was a very, very close series. This was the first series to go into overtime, functionally, which is to come out of the first 5 games tied still and have to play an additional game then on Palace, which they did, and that was where Monkey and Silver were able to tie down the victory.
Yeah, it was a really close series. I think we have the full series. You can watch it from Dwayne's perspective.
Yeah.
All 6 games. After the tie, Highway, Dwayne has betrayed his roots and begun hanging. Shame on you, Dwayne.
No, but that says something about the level of competition now.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
It shows that we're
it's
all
classic,
morally compromised old men.
Morally and ethically compromised. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the hanging of environmentals, it's one of those things that, like, even if you choose not to do it, you have to be ready for it. And that could take a lot of different forms. But it has been awesome to see. We have a couple of newer players in the tournament, and it's been awesome to see them making that adjustment, because you do see it. You see it in terms of the types of skills they bring. You see it in the amount of, like, just the volume of anti-environmental skills that we're seeing just across the board. I mean, just about every team in this tournament is coming prepared to deal with that. That method of play. Which is fundamentally about, like, control. It's about map control, and it is kind of like an unpleasant, way to lose, for sure, to get, like, shut off by a freaking chaos or something, and then have to spend the rest of the game running around the tree trying to just get a draw.
Right. Preview. That will come up later in a certain match between me and somebody.
Yeah. And so we see that pretty clearly on Highway, too. They hung a chaos, and it shut down all of Monkey and Silver Saint's lasers, and they just mowed them down with Willow and Fire Gehenna. So it was really effective counter that they had. They did manage to get a few Vibration Blaster hits here and there, but it really wasn't enough, just having 1 or 2 skills that you can still use. That Chaos hit them hard. After that, we see a move to Panorama. I thought this one was a pretty fun one to watch. I mean, I think from a viewer perspective, Panorama is actually pretty fun to watch, at least for me personally. I don't like playing that map very much.
It's a little hard if you have death cam, like, and you're trying to watch when someone's dead what's happening. But otherwise, I do want to know in this one that we're watching Panorama right now, so they get to see it. It ended with some awkward miscommunication. And I talked to G about this, and he was still feeling a little frustrated. Just some awkward. But Monkey had some, like, powerful hits, and they had a pretty strong Panorama arsenal here. Like, there's a +4.
Yeah. They were hitting hard in the melee. The pin down, it looked really good for Dwayne and Jay, and then he got caught and that guy's pinned down, and then everything just kind of went to pot real fast for Dwayne and Jay right to the end.
Yeah.
I see them playing some
A
cool
highlight
stuff.
of that video. A highlight of that video, I think, is up at around like the 29-minute mark when they win the sign game.
Yeah,
It's just awesome because that's a clutch. Like that's the game. So at that point, they know they need to win that game to survive to get one more. And yeah, it's just cool. Like I said, Dwayne plays with a lot of emotion. He's like my kind of player. I think that I play in a constant state of outrage. So it's nice to hear I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing that I saw too is Dwayne and Jay were in a really good spot to win this series with the refinery game, but like that, you combine a couple things there because they ran a vicious balance, pretty hard zero cost thing. But you see that whenever you're watching from Dwayne's perspective, he looks like he has about 9 or 10 aura in that deck, and he draws at least 7 of it in the first 10 capsules. And I mean, maybe he could have held on to a couple of them to make things a little bit more smoothly,
so.
but you see him,
how
burn right through all 7.
Exactly, and that's what you draw a deck upside down, and there's really not much you can do because ultimately, in addition to the fact that you're getting your aura early, and you're essentially built to live and die by your vicious balances or by level decaying of some form or another. In addition to the fact that it's not a good situation just for the functionality of the deck, you're also forcing yourself to choose the channel of overwriting, right? You have to decide what it is going to be. And a lot of the times for a deck like that, the aura ends up being the most likely target for that stuff as well. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a double whammy of like, he got a completely upside down draw on a deck that really needs not to go upside down.
I feel like there was definitely a little bit of user error, and it's not really their fault. I think it's a new strategy for them, and they, it didn't look like it was super clockwork. Like they talked about it a lot, like, hey, what are we doing? What do we have left? And once they played it some more, that'll totally be like worked out because I've been there with an arsenal. But if they get it to the point of how hard they fought on sign, then this kind of thing won't even happen. So I see like good things coming from them. Yeah, we're watching that panorama.
Yeah.
It ends up in a draw because, or does it end up in a draw or do they lose this one?
Refinery ends up in a draw, and then Lane ends up going to Monkey and Silver Saint.
And then Sign takes it back.
That one was a pretty involved one. Had a lot of popping, rock shots, willows. There was a Dance of Death as well. I think it was Silver Saint using the Dance of Death, hit Jay.
But these teams are really scrappy. Like I saw a lot of back and forth. Even the momentum of wins went back and forth. And I expect to be able to pull that out with anybody. Even against us, like we didn't win any win easily. A lot of those matches came to like we had to really play some technical play and some clutch, attacks to get it out. So
I'd honestly say your first series was tougher.
Yeah, no, I mean like it was not very clean. Like I'll say that straight up.
You shut down your second series a lot better.
But yeah.
Well, like I was saying before, I think that ends up being the thing that really separates a dominant team from a middling team is the ability to shut them down once you get that first kill or once you get them into a compromised position. Any two teams, generally speaking, in just an open battlefield with both teams basically set up and able to act, are going to look fairly even. And we've seen that all throughout this tournament. I mean, even in all of my games, I've been seeing, just about every game where everyone gets set up is about even. The difference is the team that can either rush out and dominate, but then also completely shut down corpse recoveries. And I really think that's where the much more difficult, like, tactical aspect of the game is in figuring out, like, where are the spots you want to be. You got a man down. What is the way you can shut down the recovery opportunity?
And I think the players that are best at making a recovery have a lot of value right now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What's next? Is it, let's see, Ghost?
The next one is actually the Zexus matchup. It's Ghost Multitude versus Zexus Xanxus.
Sweet. Let's pull it up. Oh, it's through Facebook. I apologize. There you go, guys. I'm gonna mute it. All right, take it away. Sorry about that technical error.
So, Ghost Multitude lost in the first round to Joker Sadistic, which we took as a bit of an upset given our first meeting. Although it's looking less like an upset now given this week 2's results on both ends. But as a result of that, they dropped their first game. But unfortunately, they dropped it 2-3, which put them right at the top of the teams with an 0-1 record coming out of week 1, and got them matched up against Xanxus for their second round match.
Yeah.
Which is very, very. That's a really, really tough and unfortunate matchup to get as your second match. And they made a series of it. The bands were was it Palace and Refinery.
Yeah. We see
and
out of the matches we have, we see them play on Panorama and City.
Right.
Panorama,
so we don't have Highway, we don't have Lane.
Panorama, we do see a lot of the expected ricochet lasers, and that is what won out. Looks like Ghost and Multitude weren't willing to dip into that, but they did make it a very close game. Like, there was a lot of kills back and forth. It was really bloody. I mean, it's Panorama, of course. There's blood flying.
And of course,
right.
we've already talked about the master class Ghost puts on of corpse recoveries in City.
That dash,
which is the game that they won. Yeah, his dash recoveries, his timing and his positioning is just outstanding, and it's the type of thing you watch it and go like, why can't I do that? I feel like whenever I have dash, I'm constantly dashing into places I don't want to be.
Well, that's because you're a cartwheeler. You don't even need dash to begin with. It's jumpers who use dash, right?
True that.
And when I first watched this, the City match especially, I was sitting there watching it, and I knew what the results were, and I knew that this was the only map that Ghost and Multitude picked up. And I'm watching it the whole time, and I'm like, how do they win this?
Right?
Holy shit, he made a recovery. Wait, how do they win this?
Yeah.
Holy crap, he made the recovery. Like, I was like on the edge of my seat the whole time. Like, Ghost Tweed was really absolutely phenomenal. Like, that was nuts. Multitude kept the pressure down, and they were trying to focus Multitude down, and Ghostweed played it like a champ.
Yeah. Something to mention is, like, so Ghost and Multitude, these are old blood, and you can see in, like, some of their technical play that they got that. A recent post, like, maybe worth mentioning, Xexus is currently #1 on tag team win rate. So, like, or win number, total number. So that says that these guys have grinded and put blood, sweat, and tears in this game since it came out. I mean, they have put in more effort to win than, I mean, like, the next 3 teams maybe. And so, that's where it comes from. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it helps on so many levels because, I mean, it's not, obviously it makes you just tougher, but there's a tendency after, it takes just volume of games, I think, to really build up a catalog of options from level to level to level. And to be able to really say, like, look, I think that, when we play this game, we don't want to use buffs, so we're going to use such and such. And we've played as many games on the second option as we have on the first, right? Mm-hmm. It gives you a much stronger platform coming into the series. And that's actually something I think Wolf and I have been struggling with a little bit in our games, is not having the second and third options, but not having them feel as ironclad as the first one.
Yeah.
Which is tough because you need to have those options.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a really fun series to watch. I think that is probably my favorite match of the whole tournament so far. Is the
the City
Ghost
one?
and Multi? Yeah, the City one. That was like electrifying. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm not showing that now, but I'm gonna have the links to all of them, so make sure you guys catch it if you missed it.
Yeah. And all of the game videos, by the way, are linked in the bottom of the current standings thread. So every single video that has been posted with respect to this tournament is in that thread.
Yeah, that's going to be in the description. So they'll just go to the thread and find everything.
Yep.
Okay, so who's next?
The next series is Gotrix and Silent 79.
So
facing the dreaded Doom and Roaming Ronin.
Let's see. Is it only 2 more or 3 more matches? Oh, we have Nathan and Joker.
There are 3 more.
And then us. Okay.
Yes, and then you guys. Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, we've talked about it plenty before. Doom is the scariest opponent in the game, and true to form, he swept this series 3-0. I think Gotrix was the ban on Palace, right, to try to get Doom out of his his powerhouse level. But
I mean, I thought it was effective.
And
this coming from somebody who got dumpstered in their round 2, but like Doom off of Palace looked mortal.
I'm
Like,
not
yes,
the-
he was a very good player, but he did look mortal. Like, he looked like he is within striking distance. Like, it's not 100% guaranteed Doom wins this tournament. Like, he did look like somebody that you could play against.
I'm not going to call it
I
I
dumpsters.
agree with you, but
If you watched the first half of any of those videos and didn't know the result, you'd have to guess.
I wasn't talking about him dumpstering. I said, coming
Oh.
from somebody who got dumpstered round two,
Gotcha.
I thought Doom looked mortal.
Oh, sorry, I misread. But yeah, no, totally. Like, it was a brawl, and everyone played really well.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic game. I felt like Refinery was really in favor of Gotrix and Silent 79 until they lost it there towards the end.
Was that the Excaliburs?
I can't even remember exactly how it went down. I just remember it was game 3. Looked like it was really close in their favor.
I believe I heard whoever was playing Excaliburs, maybe that was Silent, hit online Excalibur for 0 damage 3 times in a row, where it could have been.
yeah, 3 times in a row. I saw it.
And,
I'll tell you
Yeah.
this: watching the
feels bad.
Highway game, the first one, that game is won, like in terms of like the back and forth, by Gotrix and Silent 79 unequivocally.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it just comes down to their inability to shut down that save. And it's worth noting too, Gotrix has 2 unbelievable manuals in that game. The first is getting that slide laser down the ramp, like on a dead, flush shot down the shot. And then he's got the second one is he's got a blaster manual that's an odd moment because it's not a place I think I would have elected to manual because it was a straight on shot on a corridor, but I would have missed. He hooked him, at an edge that the aimed blaster would have hit the wall. So he had a couple of really hot, manual skill shots, and it just again came down to not being able to protect the corpses, which I think it so often does. And Doom in particular, I feel like one of the things that makes Doom really tough is that he's thinking about that exact thing all the time. There's no other player in this game who I find myself looking at and thinking he is deliberately not killing because he wants to wait until one of us is in a spot where we won't be able to recover the other. Like he's actually holding off on the kill shot until he knows we won't be able to make the recovery.
Yeah.
And I can't, like, the fortitude to make that decision, it's like a little tough for me to wrap my head around. So, very, very tough opponent.
Yeah, I was really impressed with them. I was also really impressed with Gotrix's level of play. It seems like they had a couple of things where they could have maybe done better and pulled out a win or two on Highway and Refinery. Again, Refinery looked it was almost throw level. Like it did look like it was really going in their favor.
Yeah. And
but it was a lot closer than the 3-0 would suggest.
Yeah.
For sure. And Doom, I always feel better against Doom than my final record would indicate. I never feel overwhelmed by him in a given moment. It's just that I find I play 12 games against him and go 1-11 or something, feeling like I was like I've actually won 48% of the interactions we've had. It's just I think he's very, very good at plotting out when to pull the trigger on a closer, and
it's small victories. But for a note, like one of the skills that I would most often attest to is like they'll bring a railgun or vibration laser a lot and manual it really well, but they're also weak to it, as Goat showed us really fantastically. So that's something where when everyone gets practice into that, like that's how you overcome this kind of like technical level of gameplay. Anyone can do it. Just takes the reps,
There's a couple of clutch manual aims that have happened in some of the series. There was one in our first game too.
Actually looking at this match, this is a 22-minute one. My first, 22 minutes for 3 matches means that they averaged like 7 minutes per. They had a little bit of a restart, but 7 minutes per means they almost went to time every game. Like they really fought back and forth.
Yeah. No, it was a really solid series. I think as far as 3-0s go, that's one of the closest ones I've seen.
Yeah.
So I guess the next match would be Nathan and Wolf.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Which one do you want me to show him, Nathan?
Super sadistic.
It doesn't really matter.
One where he wins?
They're all the same. I guess start up Refinery maybe because it makes me look good.
That 4 or 5? 3?
That's
you mean Refinery
3.
where you fall off like 4 times before you get Excalibur and just like Excalibur-gasm on everybody?
And then I went berserk, yeah.
We're going to skip past the Aura Screw and keep getting into this. Okay. Yeah.
So we lost this series 2-3. It was a tough series. They're good players, and they play. The book I had was that they were going to be on vanilla builds, and they were. They didn't run anything, outlandish.
They did drop a chaos on Palace.
Yeah, but I feel like that's pretty much that's a standard play now.
It's
I
getting
mean, that's
standards.
something.
Yeah, it's getting on meta.
Yeah, you need to be ready for Chaos on Palace all the time. And that was, I mean, it's not as if that was an uncommon play back in the day, but it feels like it's kind of becoming a default play now. I don't remember Chaos being this tough
It's definitely
before. Yeah,
I mean,
I feel
Chaos-
like Reduced Entropy
Chaos
used to
for
be the much
me-
nastier.
Yeah, reduced entropy didn't do shit this round.
No.
Chaos hits really hard in the shields and really hits hard on certain things like orb, amulet, things like that. So it makes you more vulnerable to offense. So if you're looking for overwhelming offense, Chaos is the way to go, because then they've got the railgun, the flame swords, the not the reincarnation, but a lot of the big stuff, exhaust, lax, disremember, all that's going to hit you. Because now you can't block it, and your orb can't block it either.
Right. As I played the series, I can kind of run us through very quickly what the outcomes of the games were. We played Palace, which we probably should have banned that, knowing that Joker's is one of the guys who sort of specialized on Palace. But the Wolf and I have been having a lot of success there as well, and so we thought, what the hell, we'll just go for it, strength against strength. All four of us came with rush decks, and they just edged us down. One of the things that hurt is the Wolf, unfortunately, was not able to get on for any warm-up games, so his hands were a little cold. But he literally turned on his Xbox, and we were playing a tournament game 45 seconds later. It was the fastest pace anyone I think has probably ever had to get into a game. It took
They
him
wouldn't
a
give you
solid
5
2 games
minutes to
to
play,
complete
dude.
Laser
I
Ball.
want to pause just for a moment, just to feel that cluster bomb for a moment. Okay, keep going.
Oh man, that fucking cluster bomb.
That cluster bomb.
I'll get to that. I've got an excuse for why that happened. But anyway,
I don't know if we
beat us the
breeze through
first
this
game.
fast enough. No, the viewers won't see the lane match.
They won. They took the first game on matching rush builds. The second game was on City. We elected to come back again with just some rush builds using Blazing, and it didn't go well for us either. We just got dismantled. That was the ugliest loss we've had so far, I think, at least until we played Sign 3 of the games later. Refinery, we won. You guys saw it. I fell off a couple times. Once I got set up, once I got my bravery decision set up, I was able to run around, and I had a nice kill at the end of it. But yeah, that cluster bomb, I totally forgot the cluster bomb does not have a big high arc like Big Bomb does. That clears that if it's a rock shot or something. But the cluster bomb was just directly into it.
We can tell.
6 points. Yeah, but the good news about that is, so that dropped me to 1 hit point, and they immediately overextended trying to end the game, and that was how we ended up winning. It was a direct result of that stupid mistake on my part that we ended up, stealing that game and staying alive for another round. Came back on lane with yet another rush combo, and this time it was effective,
Lane was
so we did
possibly
win.
that was possibly the fastest lane game I've seen, because usually lane doesn't end that quickly because of all the buildings you can hide. You're just
This is
hello,
true,
here's an
and
8 damage blazing sword. How you doing?
I would be curious to know what Joker's had in mind. He came to me. I don't even know what he came with, because all he came with was getting ping pong back and forth between me and the Wolf till he was dead, and then we were able to cut off the recovery. So the game was over so quickly. I'm not even quite sure what they were using. And then Sign. The Wolf and I actually turned off our mics to talk for a long time about what we wanted to come in with Sign. And we were very close to coming in with just a raw, shutdown deck of some kind. Whether it would be, we have a lot of options, right? And we've run none of them so far in this tournament. We have not come with any kind of VB build or, anything like that. The reduced entropy. And ultimately, we decided to come with a traditional, us setting ourselves up on the opposite ends of the map, dropping an optimization, and just forcing them to pick one of us so that the other one can crush them. And which has been a very high success rate combo for us. But unfortunately, this combo is very, very vulnerable, in my experience, to someone bringing a faith build, because you can't. You can't shut down the reincarnation with Erase Shell in my case, and I think Wolf's on I don't know about Flash Hole or something, but it doesn't matter. You can't shut off their mid-range attack anymore. And they dismantled. It was an ugly game, particularly ugly by virtue of the fact that I, tilted or no, took an uncommonly large number of head dives off the side of the map.
I counted at least 5.
We're almost there.
I think there were 5. That sounds right. 2 of them for deaths. By that, unfortunately, of course, the wolf by that point was warmed up. I wish, my one great regret on that series, besides not having time to warm up, was I wish I had come with a different build on Panorama, or on Sign rather. I wish I'd come in with basically anything else, because we were seeing enough faith out of them up to that point that we should have anticipated that there was a good chance we're going to continue seeing it, and knowing that that's a bit of an Achilles heel of that build. It was just a mistake. I think a bad call.
What's funny about this, like I was going to mention when we had time on lane, one of the things that I thought was wonderful was your map awareness. Like, before you friendshipped, you looked to see where everyone was. You wanted to make sure it was safe. You timed it. You didn't lose blazing or take damage because you knew where they were going to be. Now, on Sign, that map awareness comes in such a different flavor, because you have to worry about the map not being where you think it is. Like, seriously, it's scary. And it got the best of you, but it could have anyone.
It did. I mean, in particular, like it was unfortunate losing. So I was in one of the low spawns underneath a ledge, right? And so the ground gave out completely. Like the open area next to that ledge gave out, which made it so that I couldn't go out and just like navigate around and use my rolling to get them to at least spend some ore and waste a little bit of time. I was stuck on that corridor under the ledge or over top of the ledge, neither of which are good spots to be. And then the other spot that fell out, which was even worse, was right on the inside of the wall heading over to Wolf. So Wolf was at the adjacent spawn up high, and circling around that wall, that tight angle, it was dropped out right inside of it. So every single time I was in the same situation of running away from someone with some kind of high tracking skill, trying to hug that wall and just dropping into the hole where the wall was supposed to be. It's happened to me 2 different times. At the second time, I just put my head on my controller and wanted to smash it into a million pieces.
Yeah, once by your base, twice in that exact same hole in the exact same spot, dodging a blaster.
Yep. Yeah. And the second time, I was just like, man, I really just did that again. Like, I guess I just need to take that blaster again, but I don't think, technically, I don't believe that there's anything we could have done. The Wolf got hamstrung in that game, too, because he never found his Tiger Strength.
Right.
And it's a different game if he has Tiger Strength now, because now those triple lasers are actually punishing.
Right.
But that's just, I mean, look, that's going to happen. That's certainly nowhere near as bad as what happened to Dwayne with his upside-down draw. I mean, that's just missing one piece of a puzzle, so...
Yeah,
tough series.
Outside perspective, you obviously went over most of it. I mean, your arsenals... Like, besides however you feel about the choice on Sign, seems solid, work together, you guys have a lot of map awareness. I think, speaking of this as if Nathan's not here but about him, I think that if him and Wolf can get more playtime in, I think a lot of these sloppy plays will disappear on their own. Like, that's not something that...
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think that'll just disappear, and then we'll have to see some really scary matches coming up.
I'll say that if
really
we have a
interested to see
7-game
what they do
set to practice on... If we have a 7-game series to play before that, like if we get to play 1 through 7 and then come into that tournament, it's a completely different round. But to Joker's credit, that's not necessarily a win. Like, those guys played really, really well, and I'm very curious to see how they perform in the next round, because they drew themselves a tough opponent.
I was going to say, let's not undersell the victors of the round here. Jokers and Sadistic Soul played some really solid Phantom Dust. City and Palace were very solidly in their favor. I thought they had Refinery, too. It looked like a straight 3-0 until you managed to come back with that Excalibur. With your Aura Screw and just watching Wolf's health bar drop while he's holding yellows, like, I thought Refinery
what's funny about that Aura Screw?
I
totally forgot about it. Like, I went back and I watched the video. I was like, oh, my God, this is a disastrous opening. Like, I actually I must have, blocked out how bad. I think I was, 9 items in. I had 1 Aura. And nothing on the table.
Yeah.
That
was a brutal draw for you, and I was watching that. I was like, how do they take this to 5 games? So let's not undersell them there. Jokers and Sadistic Soul were mere inches away from a 3-0.
It's true.
That was a very solid series out of them. The lane
I will
game,
say this, though, too.
The lane, they just got run over with a really rough draw by Nathan and Wolf, and then Sign looked like it was back to, this is the kind of game that's being played,
Yeah.
Solid
I think
play
that
for both of them.
I really hope we face them again after the cut. I really, really do. I feel like, in retrospect, I really want to play them again. So the only series left is... let me take a look here at my notes.
You talking about all of them?
Oh. Yeah, that's 6. That's all 6. The only one left is
Yeah,
Reagan
the other match never
Gagnon.
happened. No, didn't happen.
We talked about this.
Are you sure? Wait, no, we talked about yeah.
Fake news.
Yeah, we talked about GOAT. We talked about everybody.
Okay.
Fake news.
Yeah,
Didn't happen.
All right, I'm in this one, so I'm gonna let Reagan take the lead, and I will follow up with some details. Let's talk about.
Cold-blooded.
Well, I mean,
We start with.
I think he
Blazing
just wants me
Bullet.
to take the lead so that I
that's-
can sit there and tell him how badly I got beaten. That's what he wants to hear. Which, I mean, being completely honest, this may have been the least close series played. Like, this wasn't close. Palace was a fluke. We shouldn't have won Palace. Like, it was pretty clutch. I think that'd probably be the most interesting match to play is if you're going to play one, is play Palace. Because that was the most active. But after that, it was just systematic annihilation.
In Palace, before we move on, I just want to say that, like, yes, we got to a point. I'll skip ahead a minute so these guys can see it. Where I got down to Excalibur, and you know what happens when you get Excalibur? Like, people start taking damage. We broke some shields really well, but after that, like, we made mistakes. But you have to you have to take advantage of them, and they did. And if they didn't take advantage of them, they would have lost. Simple as that. So
I hit two really good manual aim blasters right there at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And Davio caught you with that flame sword after my first manual aim blaster. I manual aimed Tokyo for the win. So, like, yeah, there was some good mechanics towards the end of it, but really you guys had that game in the bag, and we kind of lucked out there. And then I cannot stop being angry about Panorama. That's what I was saying. Like, it was your match to lose. Like, you guys, like, you shouldn't have lost there. Like, we were garbage, like 100%. And then Panorama, I can't stop being mad about Panorama. I don't know if somebody told you what we were going to be running or if it was just 100% serendipity, but you guys just brought a straight 100% counter, and I cried all the way into the next round.
Well, let me talk about that, because that one I think is I say the word meta more than most people who play Phantom Dust, and people might be like, why does he keep saying this and talking about it? But there's a lot going on about what's expected from players and what's expected at tournament level play. And so I went into this saying they know that I have a darn good Ricochet laser arsenal. They know it straight up. And there's a couple ways to deal with that. You play Ricochet laser, or you play something that beats Ricochet laser. Like, those are your
Actually, wait, can we take one very brief segue here? What is the thing that, I'm curious, what beats the Ricochet laser? What is the thing that trumps Ricochet laser with an Opti down?
I think a lot of
something
things.
that shuts off Opti?
I think you've got Return of Natures and Judgments. I think you've got Flash Holes used effectively. I'm going to give this disclaimer, because a lot of people have played way less than me. I'm going to give you 500 matches of Ricochet laser. I'm going to call that number. Right? I think I really have.
Yeah.
And there's an art to how you spatial awareness. When you block it, you take a step back and then you flash hole. You don't block the ones coming from the front, you block the ones coming from behind you.
Interesting.
And in doing that, you will often still take 2 or 4, but it won't likely break your shield, and it won't likely knock you down before you get to block. And there's just like a lot of little subtle plays like that. But anyway, so we're gonna get to this. We're gonna see Panorama. So I actually made a meta play that I said, okay, so environmentals. I know what environmental they normally play. I've seen Bregan play a Force Sanctuary before. I didn't think it was gonna be on this one. Didn't actually expect it. And I'm gonna be honest, I misplayed terribly, but had reasonable luck. So I'm sitting here with an Angel's Wing and an Ice Sword, and they're obviously best playing environmental. I am Mephisto's pack for a Return to Nature.
Oh.
Now, the thing is...
wrong.
You gotta think about it. It was wrong, but at the same time, I already had every skill in my arsenal I could use. So, not knowing what environmental it was, if it was anything else, I was done. I won it. Like, if it was a chaos, I would have to Return to Nature, I lose. With Dark Hole, Angel's Wing, Ice Sword, as they see right now. So, I misread them, but not in a way that was, pretty dangerous. I built this arsenal saying, let me tell you the defenses. I'm not going to use the same arsenal ever again, I swear. It has 2 fortresses, 2 flash holes, an Angel's Wing, and a Dark Hole. The Angel's Wing and Dark Hole are for this environmental.
Yeah.
And I kept them the whole game. They are the reason we didn't lose.
Well, I think that
the other thing that kind of messed up there. Sorry, I was going to say the other thing that messed up too is not only did you Mephistos pact something that was useless, I Mephistos pacted something useless too.
Excellent.
Davio said he wasn't able to lay down the thing because
so you took
Magnum was on him. And so I Mephisto pacted to get my own, and then Davio managed to erase the sword or whatever and then laid it down. And I could have pulled a reincarnation or a shatter instead and gotten some early harass in. Instead, I was just sitting on an extra reduced entropy. And
but in fairness,
you guys just made us look like bitches.
You can't know that ahead of time.
Yeah.
But you
again, like, yeah, we got straight embarrassed there.
What was I going to say? What was I starting to say there? I don't remember. It's out of my head.
So that's one thing about this environmental, and maybe a reason we're seeing chaos, is that often, like, you can shut down half an arsenal, but it's harder to pull the win out of it, even if you have a lock. Like, I'm locked at 3
I
out of
remember
30
what I was going to
skills.
say.
Oh, go on.
So, when a reduced entropy is down, I feel as though the two defenses you just listed, being Angel's Wing and Dark Hole, essentially shut off anything anyone could use against you. I mean, there's almost no skill you can come with that's going to break one of those two, at least not reliably. And yeah, I mean, they really do kind of.
They can at least get around them pretty reliably with a reincarnation.
Yeah.
I don't know about around them. I mean, I guess you're at least getting the 1 point of damage if they're not.
I mean, that's basically how they took us out, because we both had Dark Hole and Angel's Wing, but reincarnation will still hit on a brush because brushes aren't super responsive, and Dark Hole you can only use so many times.
Yeah. Although of course, the other thing is you can try to catch that reincarnation, but that's going to be tough against a team that knows what it's doing.
Yeah, I tried. Never happened for sure. All right, but I mean, like, so that one is an example of hanging doesn't always get you there. You have to execute. It doesn't win the game on its own. And
I mean, it certainly didn't help. It certainly didn't hurt that you had like the perfect counter.
Yeah, but I mean, I played it. That arsenal was. I said there's a couple things that people do on Pano. If he has Ricochet Laser, man, 2 flash holes and a dark hole is gonna suck for him. If he's got swords, 2 fortresses, and a Angel's Wing, mess up the swords real bad. If they're playing environmentals, I made sure to have attacks and defenses I could use in any environmental combination.
How many defenses did you have in your deck?
6, I believe.
Jesus. And was that the breakdown? Was it 2 Fortress of Iron, 2 Dark Hole, 2 Brush, or 2 Angel Wing?
It was 3 melee erase, 3 ranged erase, and one of the Fortress and Flash Holes was the 2-cost version to make it easier.
Okay.
But yeah, so let's go to the next one. I mean, like, that one we grinded out. It's not easy, I'll mind you. Like, it took a lot of technical reincarnation play, which isn't the most exciting. So I'm gonna skip the rest of that one to our city match. I had a theory on city, so I'm gonna start with this. I said, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna take whoever spawns, and I talked about this middle spawn before, and I said if they spawn on the outsides, we are going to double team whoever can't get help. And so Bragan is on the far side, and he can't get to Davio. Just can't do it. It's not going to happen. And so, not too long after the game starts, we are on him with lasers, on him with... let me get into where we're actually doing this.
Lightning sword. Yeah. You were chasing us. Yeah.
So... And that's the
I mean, I managed to put a beat down on Tokyo, and I came over to assist. Davio just couldn't get any traction.
Yeah. So that's the hard thing.
Davio was so completely hapless there. That was one of the ugliest. I was like, oh god.
He told me he had a gust.
Okay.
So
that would have helped if you were throwing something at him, I guess.
Right, exactly. So just the worst shield to draw.
Yeah. Yeah, I kept wondering what that blue was. Actually, we never saw it.
Yep, that's why you didn't see it.
Yeah. That was a gust, and
I feel like that whole match, that entire city match, got summed up. At one point, Davio just like fell off, like inexplicably. He's just like standing there, and he just like took a step forward and fell to his doom. And I was like, that right there encapsulated this entire game of City.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a third match in a row, we got embarrassed, and then moved on to Refinery, where my arsenal came out backwards, and then I didn't really have anything.
I mean,
my shatter
things were closer than you put it, I think. I mean, I know there's a lot of feels to it.
I don't think so. I think this is the most one-sided turn. I think this is the most one-sided series of this round.
This match, wait, I don't know if we pointed out to the audience, just for the sake of posterity, in case someone is listening to this thing and not aware, this match was played a couple hours ago. So this is not like when I talked about my loss, that's from 3 days ago. What's
yeah.
that?
I
Yeah.
said it's
Well,
fresh
I mean,
blood.
3 hours, 3 days, 3
Yeah.
years. Like, it doesn't change. This was
He's
a
a
complete
bully.
landslide.
Oh, speaking of awkward
Like, I'm
spawns,
not even
though,
sure if Guinan's pulled out yet. Like, he might still be in there rooting around.
so they just saw, by the way, I want to mention, I didn't take damage for like 3 minutes. And then I finally get shot while in the pickup run, and then draw 2 blazing bullets right in a row. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I saw that. I was glad. You know what I was glad to see you do though on that pull was you picked them both up and then overwrote them immediately with a because that's exactly the way to do it. You just need to get them out of your sight and out of your mind.
Yeah.
you picked them up on the same button and then overwrote them with an aura, so they were just gone.
Yeah,
Like,
didn't even want to think about it.
You know, and the other thing about City, it's interesting. That middle spawn to me feels disastrous. I feel like all the most frustrating, horrible games I've had in City have been with me and Wolf just in that ravine.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, now I actually feel like that is the stronger spot. And doing what you guys did is kind of the exact thing that. I mean, obviously, you weren't. I actually think that those isolated far end spawns are probably worse in a lot of cases, and I suspect that the data would back me up on that.
It's
I think I
There's no
still
way
think
to
the far
access
end
that.
spawns are better, except for the one Davio had. I don't like that one, but I like both of the spawns on the upper side. On the other side, there's 3 spawns up there. All 3 of those are, in my opinion, the 3 strongest spawns to
There's
have.
a lot of permutations.
The Davio
and you have to
is
play
bad.
them different.
It's a bad spot. Yeah.
Like, we played to the
Yeah,
assumption
well,
that
yeah,
I'd be in the middle.
I mean, even
And
though
you-
he's not
you-
in the middle, he's basically in a spot that has no cover.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets up there, he's able to walk up with a sword, and the other guy's able to hit him across the map with a laser. He's got no cover anywhere. So I think it has more to do with having less cover than, what's there, what's not.
But we'll have a map indulge later. We got our next map. And we are playing on, where? Is it Refinery? Yeah, Refinery. Man.
Yeah.
So, I forgot about that back button. So let me tell you about my back button. This is an arsenal that everyone knows I have. Everyone. A Bloody Ritual arsenal. It's got Ice Swords, it's got Wings of Hope. It makes people who know that it's coming still get angry. That's what it is. I felt comfortable playing it, knowing that they could expect it. I had my Bloody Ritual and then hit back. I didn't see it, and I only had 6 skills left, so it was 2 of my last 6 skills. So I played basically a standard Nature Faith Arsenal without Bloody Ritual.
I mean, I kind of had a similar thing. I got off, and I shattered 3 capsules from Murder really early on.
He didn't like it.
And then he caught that turbulence.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was just like, oh, well, now I think I should have definitely packed a second shatter in there, because after that, I was just like neutralized. I was running around and I was useless. Like, I was absolutely useless the rest of the game. I had 3 attacks, and I don't think I hit one after.
It's fun having access to the dialogue between Gagnon and Tokyo going into that match, because you can actually hear that exact decision being made to just like, look, we're up 2-1. I'm feeling really confident. Let's just go with kind of whatever. Like, I'm just bringing it. And I think that's the kind of thing. It's interesting how things cascade, because I do think there's a tendency in a lot of people, and myself included, to bring safe arsenals into tournaments. And sometimes that kind of wacky, I mean, not that that's a particularly wacky build, and obviously you've got a lot of play on it, but like sometimes something just odd ends up being really dominant. Because, because again, it's off meta for one thing, and for another, it's unexpected. And for third, it's like, it indicates a looseness of play that I think is conducive to kind of getting on a rampage. If you can, once you get the ball rolling, you can kind of really build up a lot of momentum and just tackle the other team.
I guess outside perspective, well, not outside perspective, but other team perspective, there's 2 of those matches, City and Refinery, that it actually never got to what Arsenals were supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, sometimes you don't run, like,
City, we were running a heavy erase combo on City. You never even saw it.
I saw a little bit from
I was running double Bloody Ritual, and he was running Dragon Slayers and Disremember. The goal was to Dragon Slayer into Bloody Ritual and just steal all of your aura and then disremember your skills while you're trying to pick up aura again. And we had, we played it like 10, 15 times, something like that, and it was just destroying people left and right. And then we didn't even get any of the essential skills that game.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's funny. We talk about meta, and I think that in terms of the meta shift, back in the day, I had no Faith Arsenal that didn't splash at least one Diabolic Trick. There was an auto include. Anytime I'm running, Reincarnation, obviously, Flash Hole, obviously, but a lot of the time, all the time, right alongside those 2, I would put Diabolic Trick as well. I haven't had a game significantly, a significant impact from that card, from that skill, in I don't think since the re-release. I think and it's just been slowly coming out of my decks. It's just not as effective anymore. And I think a lot of that
I
has to do
feel
with
like
people not
Shatter
going
and
through their decks
Violent
as
Change
much.
are better right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Really quick, I just want to get into this beautiful spot with the helicopter. I wish Davio was here to talk with me about it. So I'm like, Davio, I have a lot of flash holes. I have like a vacuum wall of fortress, right? I don't want Davio to have +2 power. That would suck. So I chase him for like a whole minute with an ice sword, trying to freeze him, while Murder uses Purify to get rid of his orb aura, until we finally get the +2 power out of his hand.
Yeah.
It was pretty ridiculous from all accounts.
I mean, the sad thing about it is that you were able to get away with it. Like, I was just off in the corner in La La Land being useless.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you had to re-get in a
that's the
flash
sad
hole,
part.
which doesn't do much. Because I had 11 aura and a flash hole, and so I just had the ability to feel safe, you know, playing against it.
Yeah.
Nathan, any outside thoughts on the match that we haven't mentioned?
No, I mean, it felt like a pretty rough series for the other side. Watching it, I mean, you know,
it was a
happens
landslide.
Sometimes it's. I wouldn't say it was a landslide. You won the first game, and I don't think it was nearly as off kilter.
The first game was a throw by them, though.
I
Clearly
really
a
didn't think
throw.
so. I mean, unless
You know-
you would call the Refiner game I had a throw as well. I mean, sometimes teams, you know, make inaccurate decisions, and I would add to that too that a lot of the time I think, you know, I actually think a lot of games of Phantom Dust are lost as a result of a team not being sufficiently aggressive when the window opens. And I think it ends up being one of the toughest calculations to make in the midst of a game is this the time that we go in and wrap this thing up and take them down? And I think that's all we're seeing there. I think Gagnon I think they got a little over aggressive and
Yeah,
you know, got a little front loaded. And
actively on that Refinery match, since we're watching it right now and the viewers are seeing it. In that spot, you had murdered a 2 and I'm dead in Bregan's base. Like, it was actually pretty close, but it couldn't be sealed. And like we made
He was down to 1, I think.
Right. No, he was a 2 because I just had it up here. But one hit from Psycho Knife, and we made a decision like jump off, no more aggression. We can't end it right now, and sometimes you need that.
Yep. Yeah. And that's, you know, and if you do take that, then now it's a 2-2 series going into game 5. You know, I don't think that was a landslide at all. I mean, I didn't feel crazily behind Jokers either. You know, obviously we lost 2-3. We had 2 landslide losses, but each of those losses felt like relatively small adjustments could have turned those into viable games, and that the other loss that we had on Palace could have been a win. So, I mean,
I don't know if I feel that way about our wins, though. Like, pretty much, like, the one match we did win, we probably shouldn't have. And the ones that we lost, like,
You know,
I didn't really see a
don't
viable
give
way
your
for
wins
us
to
to
your
win
opponent,
either.
because I'm going to say about a lot of competitive games of this style, when you're at high enough level, it's not about being better, but it's taking more advantage of mistakes. And like
exactly
in
right.
Palace, we screwed up and took advantage.
Shutting down your own mistakes, like making fewer mistakes. But like that, it's the same. It's part and parcel.
Yeah, like our mistake when we almost lost on Refinery, we full retreated, we full refreshed up to health again. Both of us, you know, died and respawned, and that's what we need to do. Otherwise, it was gone. Like we would have lost that easy.
Yep.
I kind of threw that, too, because I should have stayed there behind and tried to kill Murder without letting him jump off.
Right.
But I was just like, oh, well, he's got the pickup, so I'm just going to run back over and check my skills when I should have stayed back there and tried to kill him so you would have to make the pickup instead of just running over to his base next to you.
Hey, a million mistakes for everyone, but it's all about which ones we utilize, you know?
Yeah, and which one get leveraged. I mean, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Like, what can you take and turn into something?
I'll agree that maybe it's closer than I'm portraying, but I definitely think it was the least close match.
All right, so now that we have all the matches talked about, I have up right now the hierarchy map, and I'm going to use this hierarchy map while Nathan talks about what we're doing for the next round.
Yeah, so the matchups are mostly locked in. So we actually do, you know, pretty much know everyone who's playing. There's one random that's going to be based on tomorrow morning's BBC top headline.
Let me interrupt for a moment. Just
pardon my shouting son.
in case people don't fully know how this works. So this is, your height is fully based on your point value. So Doom has the most points. Currently Sandal has the least points. And because
Is
of
there any
that,
chance you could...
yeah, he's maybe just mute it for a minute, Nathan.
Yeah, just mute
Yeah,
when
hold
he's
on.
doing that if you can.
Yeah. Let me.
And I'll just explain this because we've got a lot of info, and if you're in the tournament or watching, you want to know what's going on. I'll start at the top, actually. This has so much going on. Right now, we have 4 lines for each map. That's whether you won, banned, or lost on that map. Each one's going to be each round of the Swiss. And so you can look through and say, how did Doomsday do on Palace? Well, he won, then it was banned. He won and won on Highway. He won and won on City. So if I'm looking for a ban playing against him, I'm going to be like, wow, Highway and City, unbeaten. You know, maybe those are ones to look at. He doesn't like Panorama. He's probably going to ban that, etc. And then you can see their full record. Doom, Murder, Xanxus, Jokers, 4-0. We got 2 0-4s, 6 1-1s. That's pretty much the standard distribution for a Swiss at this point, within a small increment. And we can see, like, map bannings. Like, we have a lot of info in here that you can peel out. And then the dominance hierarchy map, Doom has the most points. You get, I believe, a full point for a win of the whole round, and then each game is plus 0.1, and each loss is minus 0.1. And I don't want to get too much into the math, but that puts Doom at 2.6 because he doesn't have any losses, and it puts us as 2.5 because we have 1 loss game. We lost against Bregan, and we go down the list of these. We have a 2.3 for Xexus, and we go down, and this is the point values of every team. Only 2 teams share the exact same point value right now. Everyone else has a unique one, which is kind of cool. That's how a Swiss distributes. So our games, while Nathan's taking care of that, are going pretty easy down the list. Doom's going to play Murder and partners. Xanxus and Jokers. Bregan and Nathan. Will and Gotrix.
I have returned.
Mimic and Monkey. Like, you can just go down the list and see who's going to play the closest person starting from the top.
Yeah.
The only issue is at the bottom, Ghost plays either Esper or Dwayne, and Sandal plays the other one. So that's where we're going to need the headline tomorrow for our randomizing and our pairings.
I think are we going to do predictions tonight? Because I think we could do it.
Yeah, I think we could.
Just quickies. I think I want to just go
Yeah.
for just the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, the way we could do the bottom 4, since we don't know who they're going to be matched against right now, we could talk about the team and what we think their chances are versus, like, the other 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess say Dwayne and Jay. In my opinion, Dwayne and Jay, they've been diversifying playstyles. You can see a lot of growth there. I think they've been a surprising element in the tournament. If they go up into this match, I think they have a pretty even matchup versus, say, Sandal and Filthy or Esper and Evolution. I think
But they
where
can't
they
play
might
Esper and Evolution.
struggle.
It's either going to be Ghost or Sandal for them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
two
it's
middle
Ghost
teams.
or Sandal.
Yeah.
I think it would be really interesting to see the Sandal and Dwayne matchup. If they go up against Ghost and Multitude, I definitely edge it to Ghost and Multitude, though, just because they have the wealth of experience.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think I think those bottom 4 teams are all tough to call. I think. I kind of feel like Esper and Evolution. I mean, Esper and Evolution and Ghost and Multitude. Obviously, I've got a lot more experience playing against than the other 2. But yeah, I don't really have a clear sense of it. And obviously, all 4 of those teams have hit very tough opponents throughout this tournament. So it's kind of hard to gauge.
To say exactly how they're going to do. I've seen Jay running really hot lately. He's been playing with Xexus a ton, and they've held really big winning tag rooms. Like I said that Ronan has been doing fantastic because he's playing with Doom. Jay is doing better because he's playing with Xexus, and I think that's going to show next week. And I think Dwayne's getting those tricky arsenals. I think I edge him a little bit against Ghost and a lot against Esper or against Sandal.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat, maybe.
I think I'd
caveat
be.
that neither of those matchups are like lock-ins.
No,
That
not
they could win.
I
or
think
lose
I
either
would.
way.
I think I'd take it the opposite. I think Ghost and Multitude, I think they've still got the experience. It may be rusty, but I would edge them to win, and I still have a lot of faith in Sandal and Filthy. I don't know that they're going to make playoffs. They're not statistically eliminated, but I think they're a stronger team than a lot of people are realizing. Sandal's still got some really dirty stuff cooked up, and don't forget that Jay and Dwayne are double cartwheelers.
It's true.
That's
true.
something that I know Sandal's thinking about.
You know, honestly, that
So
is-
I would still edge it to Sandal.
I was gonna say Sandal. My gut was that Sandal had an edge over Esper and Evolution, but it would be pretty close against Dwayne and Jay because they're both cooking up lots of arsenals, and I don't know. We'll see how it goes down. I think 3-2s all in the bottom.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Well, we've talked a bit about those two on the left. Let's talk a little bit about Esper and Evolution. I don't know if I want to say we all need to eat crow, but that was all our dark horse team, and
Yeah.
I feel a little let down, guys.
But you know what? They hit so
After
hard
losing
on
to
some of
Will
those
and Matt.
combos. Like, I was impressed by some of the combos. Will and Math had a lot of grit and got through it, but not without a lot of casualties of their level or their skills or whatnot.
It's true. The matches were very close, and if I remember correctly, I think Will and Math hung some pretty good enviros in 2 of those matches.
Yeah.
And one of the things I noticed watching it is the first week against Xanxus and Zexus, I felt like they came in with a lot of preparation and arsenals made to beat Xanxus and Zexus. I don't feel like that same level of prep came in with Will and Math.
No. I think they might bring it back next week, though. I think that's something that they might have realized, or they'll hear it right now and realize that when they get that kind of preparation, it'll really come through.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. So their potential matches would be against who?
Same 2.
Sandal
It would
and
be the
Ghost.
same 2. They're either playing Ghost or Sandal. Yeah.
Okay, so they're like Dwayne and Jay, so they're playing
Yeah.
Ghost or Sandal. I think it'll be interesting to see if it's kind of like the unstoppable force, immovable object, whether or not they could lock down Ghost and Multitude. I think Ghost is one of the squirreliest players there are to lock down and capsule out. So it'll be interesting to see if they can pull that off against Ghost.
Yeah,
But
mean,
I think I'd have to edge it in their favor still.
We haven't seen Ghost and Multitude play against some of the more dirty arsenals, if you will. And so it'll be interesting. I'm sure Esper and Evolution will bring it. So it'll be interesting how they react to it, how they take it. We don't really have data on that yet. This will really tell.
No.
No, that's true. We haven't really seen that. It's been interesting. The teams that I thought, a lot of the teams I thought they would play vanilla haven't, and teams that I thought were going to play dirty have played vanilla.
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Sandal and Filthy haven't really pulled off any of their big nasty combos. Gotrix and Silent didn't pull off big nasty combos like I thought they would. Esper and Evolution, yes and no, they kind of have. And teams that I thought would play vanilla like Dwayne and Jay have been showing up with memory lapse and
Balance,
a couple different things. Yeah, vicious balance.
Yeah,
So the next
Interesting
one working
to
our way
watch.
up is going to be Mimic Mesrath versus Monkey Silver Saint. These are both 1-1 teams. It's worth noting both of these teams lost their first match and won their second, and they both had really nasty first round matchups. In the case of Mimic Mesrath, they had Doom, and Monkey, of course, played Bragan. And then
I would say one had a much nastier than the other, given the current results.
And then they both had kind of drawn out second rounds, particularly Monkey with their 6-game series that they played, beating Dwayne and Jay. I think this is a really interesting matchup, and I kind of feel like this also could go either direction. I think it's a really tough matchup to call. My money, because my heart is in it, because it was my original prediction, is still that Monkey and Silver State are going to put it together and start stringing together some wins here, having won the second round.
they showed a lot of fight in them, and I see him bringing that fight. I think that I Mimic and Mesra, they're solid, so it's kind of about if Monkey and Silver Saint show up and they prove that they can. It doesn't have to be easy, but a win's a win. So
I don't know. I think Mimic and Mesrath is a team a lot like Jokers and Sadistic. They're a lot about the rush, a lot about in your face, and I think when it gets in there and it gets into the brawl, I think they're going to be set up faster and move past Monkey and Silver Saint. I got to give it to Mimic and Mesrath.
All right. The next series is Gotrix and Silent versus I Will Rider and Math. In this case, Gotrix swept his first round and got swept in his second round, right? So he played Doom in his second round. Meanwhile, Math and Ryder, they lost to me and Wolf in the first round, and then they beat Esper and Evolution in the second round, 3-0-1. Also, both not real close series. So they kind of both have had a stinker and a monster series played so far, but in opposite order. Again, I think this is a tough match to call. I'm a little inclined to say Goat Silent, only because I find it difficult to judge harshly someone getting swept by Doom, since that's what everyone who's played Doom so far has had happen to them. So it feels like statistically less relevant,
I do gotta say, from round 1 to round 2, we saw a lot of improvement and Will and Math addressing their weaknesses. Because I think it was pretty easy to see some of the weaknesses this team had before, but they've found ways to compensate for that.
Their second round match was way better.
Even if it was close, but it was still a 3-0. So I think it'll be really close. I think this may just be because I used to tag with Gotrix and I have a lot of respect for his skills. I might have to edge it to them because I feel like they're a little bit more balanced of a team. But I think it's definitely going to be a close series. I think that's going to be one of the most fun ones to watch. Because Gotrix and Gotrix and Math kind of have similar play styles, using some of the off-the-beat stuff that you want to always expect. And they're really good at neutralizing other players.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they pull it off.
I honestly think, Math and Will have shown a lot of synergy. Math is always, just led a team. He shows a lot of forward momentum for whoever he's playing with. And Will is on the same level as, Zexus, and he's been on the grind. You see him on that leaderboard. He's been doing it. And they're coming up with some tag arsenals that, I would have called them gimmicky before I saw them, right? The Ricochet Laser Memory, or a Dance of Death and stuff, but it works. It's pretty strong. So, I don't know. Gotrix and Silent have a lot to work with. I'm actually giving Math a small edge here.
All right. The next series is going to be Bragan versus me.
Let me tell you a story, and I don't want to hear a word from these two. All right, so this guy right here. Bragan is someone who both plays the straightforward, really strong. We saw some of that. And he also wants to go out of his way to play something a little dirty. Nathan Wolf's are pretty similar, to be honest, but a little more hedge on dirty. Combo artists. You'll see it. They do, right? So you can see this. I haven't seen Bragan have to play against really dirty arsenals yet. I've seen what Nathan and Wolf have done against it, and I think, against Jokers, they came through pretty well in the situations that they came up in. Some of them being hard in against them. When it comes down to it, they're all pretty close to skill level players. I worry that both PD and Wolf don't get to play a lot, and I worry it might show, but if they get to have a warm-up and we're on even ground, because that's what I want to hope for, I think I'm going to give Nathan and Wolf this one. By a small margin, I think they're going to have just a little bit of that. They know how to play with the dirty because their hands have been in it. And
after round 2, I don't know how you can't give it to them. I'd say
small
pretty
edge.
easily you should be giving it to them. After how you dumpstered us,
it's nowhere near that. It's nowhere near that.
Yeah.
No, it definitely
and I've seen
could
Davio
go
on planning.
Davio is an Arsenal builder too. He can really do it.
Right. Yep. So
we usually go pretty positive, and when we scrim, because we've played Nathan and Wolf a lot, we usually go pretty positive. But I don't know.
True.
Nathan and Wolf are a team that show up with prep, so
tournaments are different.
And that's the thing.
If I were being on the outside, I would give it to them.
I strongly disagree with this, but the Wolf adheres to a very strict, we don't play serious arsenals against prospective opponents. And the problem here is that this tournament has all of the real players in it practically.
So there's no one
there's
against.
Yeah, there's almost like, given that rule, we're left with almost no one to actually bring the arsenals we're going to use out, and so we're using these kind of bastardized, simplifications of them, or just like different experimental builds. And we've always got things kind of boiling in the pot, but yeah, it's a little frustrating. Because my feeling is I would much rather just keep, because to me it's almost more like like blacksmithing or something, where you just keep like reforging it over and over to get it stronger, as opposed to like some kind of secret weapon you got to roll out of the laboratory and crush people with.
If I want to give you another analogy to go with that, people have told me like, wow, you're recording all of your matches, you're streaming a lot of your actual play, you're showing off all of your arsenals. I'm not hiding the lists. These are the ones I play casually. These are the ones I play in tournaments. And so it's like, let's say I played Russian roulette with, in this case, like a 16 chamber gun, right? I can hide a bullet in a couple of them and not let you know it's there. Or I could try to put a bullet in every slot, and then you got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because you can't prepare for all 16
absolutely.
at the same time.
That's absolutely true. And by virtue of having done that, it actually provides you with, Dagnan, the opportunity to completely misdirect people. Because you can come back, you can run, let's say, the same arsenal twice, win-win, back-to-back with it. You know these recordings are out there. You know your opponent's going to watch them. And now you can anticipate what they're going to anticipate you doing and circle back around, maybe with some kind of like counter play.
Am I going to play
I
Ricochet
actually do
Laser
think that
next
like
round?
opportunities are created. What's that?
I said, am I going to play Ricochet Laser next round? Doom and Roman doesn't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, case in point. And you just bring everything counter to Flash Hole. So the next match is going to be Xanxus Zexus versus Jokers and Sadistic. This is a real interesting test for Jokers and Sadistic. I am dying to see the outcome of this match.
I mean, yeah, I think it's easy to say so far. Jokers and Sadistic had, even though Ghost and Multitude are down towards the bottom of the standings right now, a really tough matchup round one. Sure, they had a breeze in round two against some scrubs, but this will be the test to see if they can beat one of the top teams in the tournament. After
the scrubs
such
were
an easy
Nathan
round two.
Yeah, correct.
Honestly, like this is one of my more exciting ones to see. This and Gotrix and Math. Not that any of the matches are bad, because once we get to the later rounds of Swiss, everything's going to be close. That's what Swiss does. So any mismatch when we talks about, there's no more of them. But this is
this whole lineup, top to bottom, is close now.
Yeah, but this one we're talking about people who have the top level of synergy in the game, maybe. Xanxus Zexus, Jokers and Sadistic. This is literally family versus family.
Yeah.
And that means they know each other's personalities, their arsenals, they're the main people they play with. And they both play a lot of reps. So it is hard to tell.
Yeah, see, Jake, some families stay together.
Yeah. So what it really comes down to...
Just kidding.
I think Jokers and Sadistic have been flexing their arsenals more, and I'm going to give them a small edge for that.
Huh. Now they just beat me, I'd love to. I'm rooting for them. I want them to win, but I think they're going to have a real tough time. I think that Xanxus and Zexus, one of the things that I take away from the videos they've posted, is they're a really resilient team. They're not a team that tightens up when they're behind or makes blunders when they're ahead. They really they play solidly top to bottom, and I think they're one of the teams that reduces their error rate to an almost negligible level, and I think that's going to carry the day for them. But I think it's going to be a phenomenal match either way. And I'm certainly rooting for Jokers, like 100%. I want them to win that match.
Just even if it's viewed as an underdog, yeah.
Oh, no, because they beat me.
Right, that's fair.
Underdog.
It makes your tie breaks better.
Okay, exactly.
Yeah.
Did we all do predictions on that one? Did we go on for breaking?
No, I was going to say for Xanxus and Zexus, I think, playstyle-wise, I think they're pretty similar teams. I think Xanxus and Zexus, like you said, are more resilient. They have weaknesses as a double cartwheeler team, and that was exploited by Esper 51 in Evolution, but I don't think Jokers and Sadistic Soul are going to do it, because they don't run that kind of stuff where you can exploit a double cartwheeler team. And so, as a more resilient team in the brawl, I think if it comes down brawl versus brawl, that's it. Xanxus and Zexus are the more resilient team there, and I think they're going to do the same job that Jokers and Sadistic do, but better.
Yeah, we'll see. Last one. Who's Doom fighting this time?
He has drawn Gagnoon for the final. So
easy
of
3-0.
course, this is, yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I'm always looking forward to the opportunities to play Doom, especially in competition, because I think he brings it to an extra level. And so I envy you to some degree the opportunity to go and see how it goes, particularly since you're in a pretty secure spot now. It looks like even if you end up 2-2, you're almost certainly going to make the cut. So it's not like a super high, the outcome's not going to make or break your tournament. So it'll be an interesting little test for you, and it'll be an interesting little test for the rest of it, because we know then there'll be a good video of it as well, so we'll all get to see.
Before we hear Nathan's prediction.
Exactly how it all goes down.
Before we hear Nathan's prediction, he did go against me versus Bregan.
This is true.
What? I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understood that.
He's saying that I picked you over him and that I was wrong there. I think I've been wrong actually every time, because I think I went against you in both of the previous rounds, right?
Yeah, I think so. So we'll see what your prediction is this time.
Oh, God.
Well, I think an interesting thing as an outside perspective on this match, I think one of the interesting things that we're going to see here is there was a lot of finals matches that included the names Guinan and iDoom, or rather Doomsday, in the past. Most of those finals matches also included my name and a big loss, a big 0. Guinan has dropped the weights. He's playing with Murder Mastodon. You can make arguments whether, improvement, side grade, whatever, but he's dropped the player that was losing in the tournaments right now. So he's with a different partner, possibly arguably stronger player. I think it'll be interesting to see if this time he can step up and take iDoom to task.
Straight aside, it's different play styles. That's what really comes
it is.
to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be a good series.
You two give me a prediction of this one. Yeah.
All right. Bregan, do you want to go first?
You go first.
All right. I think it's a sweep. And I think they're going to be excellent matches. But I think that once again,
you think it's a 3-0 sweep?
I think it's a 3-0 sweep of all 7-minute long games. I think they're going to be awesome matches, and I just think that Doom's technique with respect to closing, his closing technique is bar none the best in the game, and I think that it's going to be a very stiff uphill battle for them to win that. That said, just as with the Xanxus Joker series, I am very much rooting for Gagnoon here to win this series. I would love to see someone take him down.
Well, I'm gonna say it differently. I think everybody knows Doom's playstyle. He has his own meta, and there's currently another meta that's pretty much well shared among most of the other players. But the thing I'm really seeing is that Guinan and Mastodon are playing a different game. That really showed in our series. We showed up with some meta stuff. We showed up with things that we thought were really tricky. One of them we just never drew anything. The other one got shut down really hard. I think that they're going to come in with some tricky stuff, and Doomsday and Ronan are going to play vanilla. And I think Guinan and Mastodon can edge this out 3-2, and I think iDoom's going to have to reassess what the meta is after this series.
That's awesome. That's an awesome prediction. You could be right about that. I agree with you that Gagnon and Tokyo, what they're doing right now with their builds is perhaps a step ahead of the rest. But yeah, I think it's a real tough competition.
So the most important piece of this video, viewer at home, is next episode will be who gets to tell who I told you so.
Well, we had that this round too, because we had the grudge match this week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
We had plenty of that this week.
We'll play it off in the playoffs. Top 8. See you there.
If I make it there.
If you make it.
You say see you there, but geez, if I lose this next round, which you predicted me to lose, I might be out. So I'll take a rain check on that just in case.
I believe that even if you lose the match against me, I think that a 3-0 sweep in the 4th round would probably lock you up for a slot, regardless. Given that you opened with a 3-0 as well, so 2 sweep wins is pretty helpful to your elo.
We'll have to see. The teams that are currently bottom 6 are teams that I think I would be able to handle, but at the same time, who knows?
Yeah,
things have been changing.
Yeah,
because one of the other 1-1 teams that we would be up against, we have the head-to-head record 3-0 against.
Well, the full set of
Monkey
1-1
and Silver
teams
same.
is you and me. Yeah, I will Rider and Math, Gotrek Silent, Mimic Mesrath, and Monkey Silver. Those are all the teams that are 1-1 so far.
After Nathan, you could literally play anyone but the top 4. So it's really hard to get your round 4 match. It could be Will or Mimic or Goat or Dwayne or Sandal or Esper, Ghost. Any of them could be 1-2.
Yeah. Well, if we win that round, we might end up against somebody like Jokers and Sadistic.
Yeah, so you literally,
yes, it's possible.
Being at the middle of the pack, you could play anyone you haven't played.
Yeah. Yeah, it's even possible. Yeah, it's absolutely true. You could even end up playing like Sandal or Esper or Doomsday. You could end up anywhere on the map at this point because you're in the center.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Doomsday, and this is just a quirk of the schedule. Doomsday, Roaming Ronin are in first place. Sandal, Enk, and Filthy Knigget are in 14th place in the bottom. They have played the same 2 opponents through the first 2 rounds. Is that right? Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just by a quirk in the schedule, they played the same 2 people. Of course, this has happened other places as well, but it's interesting that those 2 particular ones played the same people.
It is, as you look at the map, the most parallel. So that's intriguing.
Yeah. Well, does anybody else have any final thoughts on rankings, teams, dark horses?
No, I mean, I think
are surprised to see where they are.
Yeah, I think the thing is pretty well shaping up, and like Gagnon said earlier, I think that the matches are really quite simple, like quite close to one another at this point. Like there's no outlandish matchup this round.
I think some of these teams might be looking like, when we talk about the ones at the bottom, they might seem dismissive, but anyone who's 0-2 can go 2-2. You're not going to have, just because there's 4 0-2s, there will not be 4 0-4s. That won't happen. So we're going to see some of these possibly top 8. They could win. We could see it, literally anyone take this tournament in the end. So this next round is a shaping round. That's going to tell you a whole lot. Because we will only have 2 undefeated teams again.
And they will certainly
I think it'll be really interesting to see. I think it's going to be really interesting to see. One of the things that me and Nathan were discussing before the podcast started is I think this tournament has a lot more parity than some of the older tournaments historically did. And some of those older tournaments, there was usually somewhere like 4 teams out of the 12 or 16 that would enter. You're like, all right, those are your semifinalists. We're just waiting to cut off the rest. Whereas I feel like this one is really wide open. There's some newer teams that we... like Xanxus and Zexus that are clearly going to be very highly ranked, who weren't really a part of that before. There's other teams that you would expect to see towards the top who are towards the bottom right now. You see other players, teams like my team, for example, the Bregan 123, the international sign of choking, dropping through the rankings right now. And so
that's one
it's going to be really interesting to see.
That is not a trend.
Well, no, I mean, if you look at all the finals I lost versus I do them in some of the other high pressure matches, like I'm pretty well known for choking in the high pressure matches. So
yeah,
but it's going to be interesting because there's other teams right there in the middle, like Gotrix and Silent 79. Like they could jump right back up to the top, they could drop down. There's a lot of parity in this tournament. There's a lot of mixing that could happen. I feel like we have maybe 2 or 3 teams right at the top that we could solidly say are top 5. But just about everybody else is total mix-up right now. Could go anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Well,
all right, so I think that wraps us up for the week.
Yeah.
Where this episode will close out the second round, going into the third round. The next recording, the next round's going to end in the middle of the week, so I think it's on a Wednesday. So I'm not sure whether we'll move this, but yeah. Thank you so much for checking in, and this was Club Baroness, episode 3.
Yeah, and
thanks for having us, guys.
And everyone, check out this this link right here is going to be in the description. Come here. Every video is going to be posted, and almost everyone's got a video. So anything I didn't show you, check out yourself. Look at these standings. Whether you're playing or watching and rooting, don't root for me. Have a good one, guys.
Later on.